So it's finally here, but I gotta ask, Barry, where's Barry? Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, terrible name, is brought to us by director Johannes Roberts and stars K.S. Gadelario, Robbie Amell, and Hannah John-Kamen. Set in 1998, this origin story explores the mysterious secrets of the Spencer Mansion and the ill-fated Raccoon City. So this is the 7th attempt at a live-action Resident Evil movie. However, this time it's different than the previous 6 that came before. This version is much more based on the original source material, most notably Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2, which is what a lot of fans have been asking for since the beginning. So now that they've done it, they've made a Resident Evil movie that is very much in line with the original source material. How was it? Well, as a big fan of the Resident Evil series, especially the early games like part 1 through Code Veronica, after seeing the movie as much as I wanted it to, it just didn't really do it for me. It's like a greatest hits of Resident Evil 1 and 2, which sounds like a cool idea, but honestly in practice, they should have just picked one or the other and focused on it. Now this isn't the worst Resident Evil film I've ever seen. That dubious honor goes to the final chapter. But it's not the best either. It is no shit like an hour before anything of any substance actually happens in this movie. And once things do finally pop off, nothing really that exciting is happening. It does at least loosely follow the first 2 games' storylines, I'll give it that much. But the soul of the story, something to keep us interested and invested in this story, just isn't there. And make no mistake, I did not come into this thing expecting a tour de force in storytelling. I just wanted to be entertained. The action here is pretty light, and what we do get is a bit lackluster. And the horror elements, well, I guess they make some attempts, and there are some half-assed attempts at jump scares. There's not much of that here either. And I didn't need it to be scary. I mean, Resident Evil originally was survival horror. If you're not gonna be horror, fine, throw some action in there. But that just doesn't work either. I don't need it to be big, bombastic, and over the top like the other Resident Evil films, but you know what? Those films, while they were really ridiculous and crazy batshit out there, they were never boring. This movie, it gets a bit boring at times. And once we get to the 3rd act of the film, all of a sudden it's like super rushed, which is really odd because everything up to that point was just really slow. And on a movie being slow, let me go ahead and clarify real quick, I don't mind slow films. Some of my favorite movies ever made are really slow burns. But there's a difference in a slow burn and just a slow as shit boring ass movie. Also, not only is the 3rd act like really rushed for some reason, but the ending is like laughably bad. Its execution is just so damn cheesy, corny, and just does not work within the context of this film. Now, if Easter eggs are what you're looking for here, then you will be pleased because there's a metric shit ton of them in this movie. And honestly, for the most part, they're all pretty clever. I will give the movie that much. Its Easter eggs, they were implemented very well. Eagle-eyed fans are going to find and hear a lot of things in this movie that will bring a bit of a smile to your face that are very clever, much like the whole Jill sandwich thing. I did like that part of the movie. Now, the movie's R-rated, which isn't any surprise because every one of the previous Resident Evil movies was R-rated as well, and the games are all mature rated. But for some reason, the filmmakers really wanted you to know that, and one of the ways that they did that was the gratuitous use of the word fuck. If you know anything about my channel, you know that I don't give a shit about cuss words. I mean, I'll throw out a fuck, a bitch, and a damn with the best of them. But this movie uses the word fuck probably more than any movie that I've seen in quite some time. It throws it out at least every other sentence, and after a while, it really starts to stand out, and it seems a bit awkward and forced. I feel like they had a fuck director, like a person that just came and took the script and said, okay, every few lines, where can I fit the word fuck in? And I mean, being a connoisseur of the word fuck, I do appreciate a good usage of the word, but here it is a bit overused and gratuitous. A fuck director. Sounds like the kind of profession I might want to get into. And that whole vibe you get that they're just trying to be edgy permeates throughout the entire film. The whole thing just kind of comes across as a bit of a try-hard. Now, our characters overall are pretty thin and are presented to us at a distance. They feel like copies of the characters that we've come to know and love. That being said, the performances that we get are all pretty good. I mean, that is probably the strongest part of this film would be the performers. Many of the actors gave off a very likable vibe. It's just the characters they were portraying were really thin and underdeveloped, so there wasn't too much there to like. Hannah John-Kamen's Jill Valentine was probably the biggest example of this. So this is one of those odd instances where the performances are good, the material's just not there. That being said, said, the portrayals of these characters, beyond the fact that they're thin, overall I didn't mind, with one caveat. There is a character in this movie, a very popular Resident Evil character, that they do really fucking dirty, and I just didn't like it. And that would be Leon S. Kennedy. I didn't mind the performance, it was the character and the way that he is written. Leon in the games, the source material that this is based on, is a rookie, but he is proficient. He's not like a dumbass. In this movie, he is a fucking idiot and pretty much the butt of all the jokes. I really hated to see that because Leon is one of the more beloved characters in this franchise, and they took a character that a lot of people like and just made him fucking stupid. Who decided that this was a good idea? Whatever the reason, I didn't like what they did to Leon. I would have rather they just left him out of the movie if they're gonna treat this character like that. Now, while the movie did let me down in a lot of areas, I will say that its overall look and aesthetic is really nice. This is a good looking flick. The practical effects as well all look really good. Now, when it comes to the CGI, that is where some problems arise. Any of you that watched that trailer that came out a month or two ago and said, oh yeah, well that CGI in the trailer, it doesn't look that great, but the movie's not finished. It'll look better in the final product. Wrong! The CGI is pretty cartoony, and it looks like CGI from the old Resident Evil movies, like the ones from the early 2000s. I know this isn't the biggest budgeted film ever made, but some of the CGI in this movie, especially a creature in the end of the movie, just looks really bad. Honestly though, if the rest of the movie was a good time, I'd probably look past that, but it's not really, so the CGI just kind of sticks out all the more to me. Guys, unfortunately, I was pretty disappointed overall with Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I'm also disappointed that I gotta say that long-winded fucking name every time I refer to this movie. The story, well, yeah, it is fairly faithful to the original two games, just comes off as kind of boring. The characters are thin as hell, and the movie just comes across as trying too damn hard and just not succeeding. On the flip side of that, the movie looks really good, it's got some solid performances, and beyond a few scenes that become a bit meandering, the homages and Easter eggs in this movie are done extremely well. If you're not a fan, then you're not gonna find much of anything here to enjoy. But if you are, at best, and this is being really nice, check out Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City on streaming.
Across the street.
Just know that I came like this close to giving this movie a lower rating. But as a fan, I did get some enjoyment out of what this movie had to offer. Now, I got an awful lot of disappointment too. So in my opinion, if you're looking for a Resident Evil movie to have a good time with, then go all the way back to 2003 and check out the original Resident Evil. Even if you don't like the later movies, that one was pretty cool. But as far as this one, I mean, unless you're a hardcore fan, you probably just want to skip this one. So there it is, guys, my review of Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Just call it fucking Resident Evil. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits to go along with that, like these guys, and possibly join my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Greg C and Dragon Con. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Raccoon City.
We're gonna take Umbrella down.
So as a lover of video games, and especially narratively driven video games, I've always said while I love that medium, those stories, those video game interactive stories, won't always translate well over to film. And after the original Resident Evil movies came out, and everybody really just shit all over those things, so many people went on and on about how they need to make a Resident Evil movie that sticks to the source material, and it's like the games, blah blah blah. So here you go, you finally got that, and how did it work out for you? Unless you like the movie, which in that case, I guess it worked out for you.